WWE is getting weird, and it all stems from a love triangle storyline with Dom Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Rhea Ripley. And I'm not going to lie, it's actually a fascinating storyline to watch unfold each week, but I'm really curious as to where this storyline is actually going. And that's why we're going to talk about it right here on More Ango. Now, for those who don't know, maybe you missed WWE Raw, but Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, they are fighting for the custody of Dom, and Dom basically cemented his choice in Rhea Ripley. But for some reason, I can't get the idea out of my head that a major swerve is happening, and this all leads to the breakup of the Judgment Day. Or should I say the shift of the Judgment Day, because I do believe that Rhea Ripley is destined to be a top babyface in the women's division, and I also think the same could be said for Damian Priest. And then you got to start wondering, how are the strings being pulled and who is doing this from within? Now, there have been too many times on WWE television where Finn Balor has inserted himself into this storyline, whether it's his interactions with Dom Mysterio on screen, or maybe Liv Morgan and Finn Balor walking out of the same car several weeks ago in the background, right? It was a little detail that you probably weren't supposed to notice, but they wanted you to notice it because they're foreshadowing something. And for some reason, I can't help but think that Finn Balor is the one who is doing all of this. And I genuinely believe that Finn Balor has been plotting the takeover of the Judgment Day. And then you got to wonder, well, why Liv Morgan? And it's interesting for a variety of reasons, because when you see Liv Morgan profess her love to Dom Mysterio, I don't think she actually genuinely loves Dirty Dom. And I don't think Rhea Ripley loves Dirty Dom either. And I'm sorry, brother, but this isn't looking good for you. It's not, because quite honestly, a love triangle storyline such as this one, I think Dom is going to be the one leaving with a broken heart. And the reality is, they're just simply using Dom. Now, I don't know what the new Judgment Day is going to look like, but I'm going to assume that Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Liv Morgan, and Carlito are probably the ones who are going to be running things. I do kind of become curious where Dominic Mysterio goes after this, and that is something I do want to talk about in this video. But when you see Rhea Ripley licking Dominic Mysterio on TV and then kiss him on the cheek, I think that was all done by design to make you think that Rhea Ripley truly wants Dom. Now, what's really interesting is if you look at it from a different perspective, this entire time, Liv Morgan has been fighting for Dom, and Dom has been entertaining it. And then last week, Rhea Ripley made it clear that she is not his, but he is hers. And she's got that dominating attitude towards Dom, and Liv Morgan is a little bit more submissive. I don't know. There's something really, really strange about the storyline and where it's headed, and I think it's going to be some quality TV. But I do want to talk about the future of the Judgment Day, because look at how we got here. I don't know if I ever anticipated the Judgment Day becoming this big of a faction. Yes, we saw interactions between the Judgment Day and the Bloodline in the early days, but think of the first days of the Judgment Day where Edge was the leader. Man, we have come a long way. And that's something that is absolutely worth discussing, because I don't know if WWE ever realized that there is so much potential with this group moving forward. But then when you remove the pieces of the group and they all go their solo way, what happens to them next? That's where I have a hard time understanding where things can go. Because yes, you can run a feud between Rhea and Liv Morgan, and maybe Rhea gets her title back. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But then you can also factor in Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, which I've talked about a lot. I think there's been plenty of seeds planted for that particular story. But then Dominic Mysterio becomes the one that I'm most intrigued by, because Dominic Mysterio burned bridges with his father, meaning he also burned bridges with the LWO. Dominic Mysterio looks like he's burning bridges with Rhea and Liv Morgan. And because of his attitude towards Liv Morgan, it looks like he's burned bridges with Damian Priest. Yeah, this is a really over-convoluted storyline. And ultimately, I do have a little bit of fear as to whether or not Dom will have anything big going for himself after this. I mean, let's face it, Dominic Mysterio is talented, and he's doing a great job with the character work. But when the love triangle is done, when the Judgment Day is done, what else can you do with this kid? I mean, yeah, you can have him wrestle random matches and you can do random things like that. But he's like the only guy where I have a hard time finding out what his future looks like. When trying to predict the future of the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest being respective baby faces makes a lot of sense. I feel like those seeds were planted a very long time ago. Liv Morgan and Finn Balor plotting against Dom and Rhea as a mutual agreement to take over the Judgment Day makes a lot of sense. And I could see that happening. Carlito was thrown into the Judgment Day, but he's not technically an official member. I don't know. That whole thing gets kind of confusing, but it works for now. But like, even with Carlito, he's going to be the veteran that takes losses. Whether it was with the LWO or the Judgment Day, I think that was relatively clear. Hey, you'll be on TV, but you're not going to be a singles champion. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to prioritize Carlito over the Braun Breakers and the Bronson Reeds and the Sami Zayns of the world. Ilya Dragunov, right? But I feel like you could kind of determine what everybody's future is except for Dom. The only thing I could predict is that Dom is going to have a broken heart. Dom is going to be in the slumps, and that might make for some quality TV when he's alone backstage with nobody by his side. But then what happens next? Do you throw him into a tag team? Do you not throw him into a tag team? Do you throw him into another faction? There's going to be a lot of character arc for Dom once this storyline concludes, but I genuinely just don't know what to expect with him moving forward. But it is very obvious that like when he was professing his hatred to Liv Morgan, something about that just didn't seem authentic. And maybe that's because he fears Rhea Ripley. So how does this all trickle down into a story? I don't know. Love triangles in pro wrestling, they are very interesting. They're very interesting. They're very funny. Some people hated the idea of them doing a love triangle storyline here, but at the end of the day, Dom has been so good as a character, and he is working with two really good characters that make it fun. But at the same time, too, you just got to wonder what is next for the kid. And I don't know. That's what makes it so crazy. Like, you definitely have to watch to tune in and like find out what's going to happen. I don't think it's as predictable as people think. But it is getting weird. And WWE is getting naughty. And somebody's got to call the horny police because there's a lot of craziness happening. So I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys predict for the future of the Judgment Day? What do you predict for the future of Dom Mysterio? Let me know how you guys think it's going down. I'm very curious to read the comments on this one.